So what started out as Ira and Okarun chasing down Koki Yukishiro, the alleged Count Saint Germain conspirator, into a dead-end classroom, turned out to become an all-out war that Koki might be orchestrating back in the shadows. Now, last chapter we learned all about Koki Yukishiro's backstory, the girl who was a great and amazing piano player who eventually grew into, one, as having a terrible family, but two, grew into an inferiority complex and ended up taking a very vulnerable photo that a faculty member, most likely Count Saint Germain, is using and blackmailing her into doing his bidding. So all in order to hunt down and steal Momo Ayase's psychic powers, this girl Koki Yukishiro has now entered a contract with this dark and evil force that supposedly consumes her and empowers her the more that she gives into it and tries to become her best self. A lot of people were trying to put together what these little pixie things might actually be, and we find out in this chapter we get full confirmation that these are known as pygmies. What are pygmies? They're just little fun creatures that were invented in Greek mythology, and they're meant to be commonly portrayed as just fat, pudgy dwarves that commonly jump into mischief. So unfortunately, everyone that was holding out for Kuropakar, I am sorry to tell you that you will only be able to find this deity inside of a Shin Megami Tensei game. What's important to note is that these quote-unquote pygmies are the exact same creature that Momo Ayase found all the way back in the library when they were searching for information on fairies. Most likely, the whole reason that Koki Yukishiro was even able to find Momo in the first place was because this little pygmy alerted her to her presence. Now, thankfully, Kintaka, Gigi, and Bamora are all right behind Ira and Okarun, barging right into the door to the classroom and trying their best to help them out. Unfortunately, what they end up entering is a fully in-session cooking class, which is not at all where Ira and Okarun are. So by jumping into the room first before everyone else did, it seems like Ira and Okarun were actually transported into empty space. Now, Okarun mentions that everyone should be on high alert because if empty space is taking place, then that means there must be aliens present. Whether the pygmies themselves are actually aliens or they're evil spirits, I think just based off the fact that they're feeding off of Koki's insecurities, it makes more sense to me that they would be dark spirits or evil entities, as opposed to aliens that came down on a UFO. I think the empty space being associated with aliens very commonly has more to do with the fact that Count Saint Germain may be involved in this raid or attack. Now, while it's pretty clear that Count Saint Germain might not be an alien, although we really don't know anything about this character, for all we know he could be wearing human skin, what I will say is that giving Count Saint Germain the benefit of the doubt, if he's not an alien, I wouldn't put it past him to know the conditions to actually create some form of empty space, simply because we have seen him be with the Kerr alien race before off Earth, and in order to enter Earth, he entered in through those two big doors in the museum. So he is definitely familiar with alien technology. Wouldn't put it past him to conjure an empty space. And remember, while he's not currently present in this room, we did see him just a couple seconds before entering the room. So it's possible when he told us not to run in the halls or anything like that, he may have done everything he needed to do to set up the empty space. And unfortunately, it was just only taking Ira and Okarun at the time. Now, what's even more confusing that I think we should focus on is what the hell Okarun is doing here in the first place if this is an empty space. Simply because we know all the way back in the Serpo arc that empty space can only be entered by characters with high levels of spiritual energy, or at least sufficient enough to make the cut. It's the main reason that back in the Serpo arc, the Serpo aliens were very confused why Ira was actually present in the empty space, and they thought that she was just a mere accident. Of course, we find out later that she had inherited acrobatic Silky's powers, giving her the access to becoming a spiritual medium and a spiritual entity that gave her the power to actually enter empty space. If that's the case, by losing Turbo Granny's powers, what is Okarun doing to currently inhabit empty space, or at least meet the spiritual requirements of that? Is it possible that Okarun has actually absorbed fragments of Turbo Granny's power, and that's actually what's going on here? Remember, a couple of chapters ago, we did see him literally outrace one of his high school bullies, and also just break plenty of records for his school. So whether Okarun just got really good at athletic activities just from, of course, being in multiple different battles and just getting the hang of running fast in Turbo Granny's powers, it's also possible that as doing all of that stuff with Turbo Granny within him, two beings existing in the same vessel, it's quite possible that some of that power, some of that strength rubbed off on Okarun to the point that he's now able to call out that power himself without Turbo Granny at all. I mean, up until the final point where Turbo Granny left, Okarun had essentially mastered most of her powers to the point that he was even adding new things to her arsenal like the electric ability. Whether this is because, again, Okarun just got physically stronger over time, or he has awakened to supernatural powers that we just haven't seen him use yet, or he's not even aware of, we'll have to wait and see. However, they really don't have any time to ask questions because without any seconds to waste, as soon as Okarun and Aira enter this room, the pygmies attack and they just start quickly stitching them together and connecting them to the desk, connecting them to each other. It's full chaos. Not too bad at first, sure, to get stuck to a desk, but when you have other pygmies literally firing full-on trebuchets of knives, they're setting up complex military installations here to just start all out attacking these humans that are sure way bigger than them, but if they can attack in numbers, they're doing some serious damage, as you'll see. I mean, only takes one knife between the eye. And the fact that they're able to do everything so quickly that not only are Aira and Okarun even able to notice it's happening, they're doing it so speedily that the stitching happens in seconds. So even once they disconnect each other, they're instantly reconnected to another portion. And on top of all of that, despite swarming the entire room to the point that it would be almost impossible to miss them if you couldn't see them, literally Aira and Okarun, because they're not on the same size as Momo, the pygmies are meeting the exact conditions that Momo prescribed to fairies a long time ago, which was because normal ordinary humans are so distracted and so detached and distanced from that small little realm that the pygmies and fairies exist on, it's impossible to see. Despite Momo literally calling out to Okarun and Aira, saying, hey, there's pygmies literally right on your shoulder. Okarun and Aira look, but they can't see anything, which makes it 10 times harder to fight back. With the pygmies being basically invisible and left to set up any traps or set up any crazy group attacks that they need to, Momo is really the best asset they have in that battle, and that's not saying anything at all, because think about it. Despite Momo having 100% of her power, she's still one tiny little girl up against hundreds and thousands of entities that are all about the same size as her. Aira makes a pretty good idea, but it ends up backfiring instantly, where she says, you know what, if I can't see anything and they're supposedly everywhere, what if I just whip my kicks and whip my hair all over the entire room and leave no block left unhit? But even this doesn't work, which doesn't make it clear if the pygmies are like existing on some different layer of reality or what, because this backfires so badly that it gives Aira some of the worst setup for the worst bit of karma in her entire life. The pygmies are fast enough to stitch her hair to all of the desks that she was just whipping around, but on top of that, they're able to start the gas and start the stoves on all of those decks, igniting an ember and a flame right onto Aira's hair, which could completely have her lose those silky smooth locks, which one is going to be very traumatizing, may take away all of her powers, at least for this very moment, paralyzing her and making her unable to deal with that, but it may potentially end up with the loss of the fight entirely, because think about it. If Koki needs Momo to yield, even if Koki was to sneak attack and stab Momo in the back during this big commotion, while that may be a great idea, if Momo doesn't yield, the powers aren't absorbed. So one of the best possible ways that Koki might be able to abuse this power, getting Aira in the worst position that she may actually either die or lose all of her hair. And we know that to Aira, that's not going to be, that's as close to death as you can get. So if making Momo yield in order to surrender her friend and keep her friend safe is what Koki Yukishiro has to do to get her power, this might have been the best possible way to do it. As Okarun doesn't even know why he's currently in empty space, so I don't think he's gonna be much help. But what makes all of this 10 times eviler is the fact that the fire on the hair trick is the exact trick that Momo and Okarun pulled on Acrobatic Silky way back in the Acrobatic Silky arc. When Momo and Okarun got swallowed by Acrobatic Silky and Acrobatic Silky thought she won, Momo literally lit Aira's lighter inside, igniting her hair and enabling it useless throughout the rest of their fight. So we already know that this is a bad situation for Aira. Whether this leads to Momo yielding or this leads to Okarun awakening this new special power that we haven't seen him use yet, all I know is I am here and ready to experience it. I mean, this is a whole group of people that was able to fight off an entire Kur advance force. These people are packing heat. So if an entire army of pygmy soldiers and some 16-year-old girl that just awakened to her spiritual energy are able to beat them, that's going to be pretty disappointing. But with Count Saint Germain being involved and potentially pulling the strings behind all of this, I can't say it's unbelievable either. All I know is if Okarun's power wasn't valuable to Count Saint Germain, is it enough to save us? Who knows? But all I know is I need Okarun to turn up right now. I'm waiting for it and I'm hoping for it. We need him. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much if you made it through another review of DanDaDan. I appreciate you so much. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already to make sure you don't miss any future DanDaDan videos or reviews weekly or any other series you may read, not just weekly, but monthly as well. And I will see you guys in the next one. Check out maybe the main channel for some more polished content.